We will now have our guest speaker, Mr. Vince Cate. Mr. Cate went to UC Berkeley for undergrad and Carnegie Mellon for grad school. He moved to Anguilla in 1994. Mr. Cate has four sons, Corey, Amoni, Terran, and Ethan. Your names spell Kate. Thank you. So please welcome our guest speaker for this morning, Mr. Vincent Cate.
All right, I'm talking about Anguillas domain. In other words, Anguilla's golden goose. And the potential here is amazing, and I hope I can give you some understanding of why this is going to be such a big thing for Anguilla's future. Okay, first, what are domain names? The internet protocol uses 4 bytes to address the packets that flow around and we write them down as these 4 numbers between 0 and 255. But those numbers are great for the routers and all the computers, but humans need something different. So we've come up with this domain name system where names that humans can understand and remember are mapped to these internet protocol numbers. And this naming system is a hierarchical one, so if somebody has one name, they can they can make other names underneath it. Okay, so we've been growing .ai for many years, and it was growing at a very respectable pace. But in November 30th of 2022, ChatGPT came out, and that just turbocharged everything. Now, AI is one of the hottest things out there. It's really helping people in business and doing things. And so billions of dollars are now being invested in AI, and people like .ai names for these kind of businesses. A good name can be a huge win for your company. When you advertise, if you're advertising a name that people can easily remember, then your advertising works much better. And so it's worthwhile to invest in a good name. And it makes a big difference. Some of the names are selling for over $100,000, and we auction off every month domains that people stopped paying for. And just the auctions of names that people stopped paying for is making us like $250,000 a month US. So it's an amazing thing. So we've gone viral. Now, the more people that use .ai, the more websites there are out there that people are going to that have .ai, so the more people that see .ai and think of using it themselves. And there's millions of people going to these .ai domains every day. We couldn't advertise, any advertising budget we would try to do, it just wouldn't compete with this kind of thing that we're getting for free. I would drive along the roads in California, and there's buildings on the side of the freeway with .ai names on the side of the building. So everybody is, seeing that, you're thinking about that, and lots of people register names. The more names we have, the more publicity we get, and so our growth is a function of how many names are out there, and so we get this exponential growth, and that's a very powerful thing. This is the money that's going to the government, and you can see where it shot up in November of 2022, that's when ChatGPT came out. And we were, before that, okay, so the top line is the new registrations, and the top line is the total, and the second was the new registrations. The third line down is the renewals. And the renewals, we do 2-year registrations, so the renewals go up 2 years after the new sales go up. Okay, so this bottom graph is lagging the other ones. But this month, it looks like we're going to be like 3.9 million US to the government for this 1 month. And yeah, so it's amazing. Yeah, so we have people pay for 2 years at a time, and since it shot up starting at the end of November, at the end of 2022, when those renewals kick in 2 years later, so like the end of this year, we'll be up we'll get like, right now we're getting sort of 3 and something million in new registrations, but the renewals from 2 years ago are very small right now, like less than 1 million. But when those renewals get to the same level that the new registrations are, which is like around the end of this year, we'll suddenly jump to like 6 million a month. And this month we're around a third of the government's budget, so if we double, it's something like 2/3 of the government's budget, which is amazing. We have the prices indexed to inflation, and everybody knows this, so when the prices go up, there's no nobody's complaining because they knew that was the deal all along. And so when we update the prices, it doesn't cause us any trouble. Everybody still renews all the domains. Okay, exponential growth is just this amazingly powerful thing. One of the most powerful forces in the universe, and it's working for us in this case. 15 years ago, when we started selling these, we got around $4,000 a month, and now we're about $4 million a month. So that's a factor of 1,000. And if you take 2 and double it 10 times, that's 1024. So we've essentially had about 10 doublings in the last 15 years, which is amazing exponential growth. Like I said, the renewals are going to kick in, like everybody renews. So we're going to get another doubling just almost for sure. So around the end of this year, through April next year, we'll be double again. And so that would get us, again, around 2/3 of the government budget. All we need is one more doubling, and we're like all the money they need. And if we've had 11 doublings, come on, we're going to have another one. It's just a question of how, a couple of years, 3 years, who knows. But it's probably going to happen. Part of why this is so amazing is we're selling to the whole world, right? We're not just selling to Anguilla's market. So if you have something that has exponential growth and it's selling to the whole world, the potential is enormous. Far beyond, what the government could get out of taxing us is, there's a limited amount they could ever get, right? But this thing, the limits are way higher. It's a great thing because almost everybody's going to just renew the domains. For big companies, this is peanuts, and they don't even bother to decide, they just like renew them, right? Because it's so little for each one. Yes, so huge potential. It costs us nothing to make these. They're just bits on our computer, right? And the people make up the names. They pay us real money for the names that they thought up. And so this profit margin is it's pretty close to 100%. It's an unusual business, right? It's different than what you guys are used to. And we have a monopoly. A normal problem with business is you get competitors, right? And then your profit margins get squeezed and it's hard to stay in business and people are going to go out of business. Nobody else gets to sell .ai domains. Only us. And it can't change. It'll never change. We are it forever. No competitors. Anybody who wants a .ai, they have to pay us. So what an amazing thing. The renewals are, so, the government is cautious about, this suddenly jumped up in 1 year. You don't want to count on it because it suddenly jumped up, it might go back down, right? We don't have much history of it being 3 million a month. But eventually, the renewals are very reliable. So whereas the auctions and the new sales might go up or down, I would say at some point you'll be able to count on the renewals. Now, right now the renewals are less than 1 million a month, so it's not much to count on. But it will go up. And we've looked at this a little bit, and basically the first time people have to renew a domain, there's around an 80% probability that they'll renew it, but then it goes up. The second time, at 4 years, it's like 90%, 6 years, 95%, and beyond that, basically everybody renews their domains. And if they don't renew it, we put it up for auction and somebody else will renew it. So it's like, it almost got it for sure at that point. The other amazing thing about this is the amount of manpower it takes to run this. Mostly what's going on is there's companies like Namecheap that have their computer talking to our computer, and their customers go to their website and say they want to get this name, and then their computer says, is that name available? And our computer says, sure, it's yours. And it's all done by the computers, right? So we don't actually have to do anything for each domain that's sold. They have to send us money. So around once a month, and less often for the small companies, we have a wire transfer that we have to enter into the system. But that's not a lot of work for each of these companies. And there's around 100 of them. Again, some of them are smaller, and so they don't do so much. When somebody first connects to us, it takes a little bit of support to get them started. But most of the companies that have been with us for years, we really can just sort of enter in the money that they give us, and it's not a lot of work per company. They're supporting lots of end users, so they're getting support, lots of emails and phone calls from their users on how to do things and whatever. But they know what they're doing, and so they don't ask us a lot of questions. And so it's amazing. A very small staff can support all these domains. Okay, so what's the long-term potential, right? Well, okay, when I came to Anguilla in 1994, there are 300,000 .com domains. This morning we checked, we have 409,280 .ai domains. Okay, so we're more .ai domains today than there were .com domains when I came to Anguilla. All right, in the 30 years since then, .com is now up to 160 million domains. Okay, so where is .ai going in the next 30 years? We don't really know, right? But it has a lot of potential. I mean, it's enormous. It's, yeah. This is great because, as you guys know, it's harder to do business if the government's taking lots of your profits. It's harder for people to live if the government's taking their money and they have to go buy food and da-da-da. So if the government can get a lot of their money from something besides taxes, life is better for the rest of us, right? And we have, no, it's just the truth, come on. So we have a potential here to become one of the most amazing tax havens in the world because the government has this other sort of. There's some oil countries where they get like 50 to 90% of their government's money from oil. We can do better than that, okay? Those guys, they have to worry that their oil's gonna run out. There's a finite amount of oil in the ground, and so they can't count on it forever. These domain names, we can sell them again and again. They renew them again and again and again. We can sell new ones. There's no limit to the number of names that you could make up. And so it's really an infinite number of new names and an infinite number of renewals, and we're not gonna run dry. Yeah, and again, the profit margins, right? It costs them money to make these oil rigs and to drill the oil and all this. This cost us nothing to make these. So, yeah, and the oil companies are competing against other oil companies, and sometimes the price of oil goes down and stuff, right? We don't have this. So we can really get above 90%. We could be the first country anywhere that has 100% of the government's money. I'm not saying right now, this is years down the road, and I don't know how many years, but it's really got the potential, I think you have to be a little cautious, right? But the potential is amazing. Okay, so then everybody says, well, what are we going to do with this money? Well, this is for the government, this is for the people to decide. It's not really for me, right? But I think that people should start thinking about it and start talking about it, because I think this is our future. Very likely that the government has lots of money coming in, and you've got to decide, what you're gonna do with it. I'm very happy that they got rid of the property tax on residences. I think that's a fantastic thing. And I hope that they keep going in that direction. So some of my suggestions would be this temporary stabilization levy. The government's finances are stable now, so we could really get rid of that. Well, at a minimum, GST on sliced bread, come on. We should be able to have sliced bread without paying you a cut. I mean, come on. So food, you know, and in general, you want to look at where the taxes are hurting the, you know, the poor people the more, and try to, you know, get rid of the ones that, you know, you're going to phase this in. It's not going to be an overnight change. And so, but you have to have a, you know, figure out what you want to do, and as you get to where you can count on the money, hopefully, can make some kind of changes. One of the things, there's other small country, every country got a domain name, right? And a lot of the other small countries, some big company came in and took over their domain. And they got some fixed amount of money every year, like $1 million for the next 50 years. But then with inflation, the $1 million is nothing, right? And so the companies knew this, and the countries would then fight for decades in the courts to break the contract, and then they would make a new contract for $8 million a year and get the same problem again. And so far, Anguilla has not fallen victim to a big company, and the money is going to Anguilla, and we're doing better than any of the other small countries as far as domain names, revenues for government, and I hope we keep our wits about us and keep doing that. So, the most important takeaway from this talk: don't sell the golden goose, okay? This is, no matter what they offer for you, don't sell it. The future is amazingly bright for Anguilla because of this, and all we have to do is not mess it up. And so, you know, I have the slides on the internet if anybody wants to get a copy of these. And any questions? You know, the way I would expect it is we have a very high growth for the next, you know, 10 years while AI is just taking off. And then at some point, it'll sort of level off or go back to sort of a more slower growth, right? But AI has just started, and I don't think it's going to slow down soon, because it really makes a big difference. I use it every day. I write all sorts of little programs to do all sorts of stuff, and it's incredibly helpful. So, yeah. Any other questions?
I have one more comment. You were involved with this from the start, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of reason why we didn't get a big company buying this was because a lot to do with you, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So I just wanted to congratulate you and thank you.
And thank you for saying yes to our invitation to see you.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Cate, for such a great presentation and for giving us a deeper understanding of the .ai domain. I guess you and Dr. Webster will have some talks very soon.